okay, we want to take this time and bring Dr. John Henrik Clarke up. And we have a plaque that we would like to present to him.
All right.
Plaque reads to Dr. John Henrik Clarke, in appreciation of your many years of educating African people. The African Poetry Theater, January 31st, 1988.
It is a good thing that I do not believe in white sociology or black sociologists who follow them. Because according to them, I don't supposed to be anything. I came from an extremely poor family in the backwoods of Alabama. I grew up in a home partly broken. I left home when I was 14 to support myself. I moved because I mowed lawns and aired people's dogs and did chores with white people. After school, before schools, I developed friendship with several maids. And one of the maids said, if you ever need a place to stay, come to see me. Her name was Rosalie. When I needed a place to stay, Miss Rosalie was no longer there, so I had to find other maids who knew where Miss Rosalie was. When I finally found her, she was running a boarding house. And because it was depression, things were tough, jobs were scarce, the boarding house became another kind of house. And yet I've never been treated better in any place than in that house. The ladies bought me books, magazines, treated me with respect, didn't let their customers curse in my presence. As a writer, every time I write about a prostitute, she comes out smelling like a rose. I have more respect for them than some socialites I've met. Now this isn't part of my lecture, but my main point is that people from lowly backgrounds don't supposed to make it. And I did because I insisted that I would. I've never been in jail for any purpose except honorable purposes that I'm willing to admit, like leading some unemployed men on a relief station, demanding relief for single men, and leading a riot, honorable things like that. Never stole anything. Raising money for a new magazine. But I'm fortunate in many ways. I pretty much knew what I wanted to be from the beginning. And though it took a long time to be it, a long road to get there, I was always clear as to what I wanted to be. In the 5th grade, I had a teacher who's a deity to me to this day, Miss Evelina Taylor. She was such a great teacher. She demonstrated the lesson and she gave the lesson. And because I was away from home, I wanted to be accepted. I wanted friends. I was playing, trying to cut up like the other boys to impress people. And she called me in one day, locked the door. She told me what education was, what it was supposed to do for me. So you cut the fool because you want to be accepted. You don't have to be no fool. You got a good mind and I'm going to make you use it. I will never let you be less than your best self. Then she told me something that every child needs to know, because so many of them live and die without anybody ever telling them this. She braced my face with both of her hands and looked me dead in the eye so I couldn't look away. She said, I believe in you. I have confidence in you. I built an entire education on the stimulants from that woman. I never forget her because we never imagined Miss Taylor ever being any way other than the way she was. We never could imagine her ever being a teenager. We never could imagine her ever being a baby, ever being a young girl. We thought she arrived in the world, a middle-aged lady and a great teacher. And that's the way she would always be. But from her and the admiration for her, I wanted to be a great classroom teacher. 3 times at Hunter College over 18 years, I was Teacher of the Year, voted by the students, and nominated 3 other times. I never taught a class that wasn't oversubscribed. In other words, I had more than the allotment of students. I've been retired 2 years, and I teach only 1 course at Hunter. Because it's a night course and my eyes are dimming from terrible bout with glaucoma, I told them to hold my class to 30 students. I called to see how much material I would need. I thought I had maybe 20. They said, I'm sorry, Professor Clarke, we forgot. You said 30. But when we got to 40 students, we did stop it. I've always had more students than I can teach. And though in formal education, I like 1 semester of finishing grammar school. But I read so many books and analyzed them. I've trained 2 generations of PhDs.
All right.
It's not a matter of formal education, although I don't think anyone should avoid it. And had my mother lived, who was saving 50 cents a week to send me to Tuskegee, before she died, she was a washerwoman, I might have had 3 or 4 PhDs. I met many rich men in my life, yet I've never met a rich man who had a better mind than I have. If it was my desire to be a rich man, I have the mentality to be it. But if I had to do what some of them did to become rich, I would cut my throat.
All right.
I have never had to exploit anybody to be what I am. teacher, an educator, a researcher, but principally a servant to people. I do not think being a servant to people is anything lowly. I think it's one of the highest things you can be. One of the most uplifting things you can be is to be a servant to people. Of course, some people are going to exploit you. Some people are going to misuse you. But some people are going to appreciate it. When I look back on my own life as an educator, in my own community, 3 of my former students are doctors in Harlem Hospital right now.
All right.
One of my latest students is chief of pediatrics, the hospital in Syracuse right now. One of my former male students is chief of abdominal medicine in a hospital in Colorado right now. 3 have been ambassadors, 6 have been cultural attaches, several are engineers. 3 are working in Libya right now. But when I think of all those beautiful flowers I've got growing all over the world, that's my hereafter.
All right.
As Miss Taylor lives in me, her former students, I will live in them, in the way I have served them. This is what I mean. Service is one of the highest callings and one of the most respectful callings. All right, now, let's get to the subject. We're talking about education for the 21st century. First, let's see if we can understand who we are talking about, what people we are talking about. We as a people have a tendency to lose ourselves on the map of human geography. We as a people misread our history because we do not understand what history is supposed to do for you. History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. History is a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells a people where they have been and what they have been, where they are and what they are. Most important, history tells the people where they still must go and what they still must be. History becomes essential. This is your roadmap for living. And when a people do not know their history, they cannot chart their future.
Right.
The one thing people try to educate us in not knowing is our history. I was in a room full of educated black people, PhDs and all kind of Ds. And they were telling the Western educated are indoctrinated, are trained.
I like that.
They were naming the great battles of history that has changed different things in history. And I said, I'm a poor man financially. I will give a month's salary if one of you explain, while explaining the battles of the world, the Battle of Tandobie. A monumental battle that changed the destiny of the whole African people. That is the battle at the edge of Timbuktu, when those corrupt Muslim Moroccans destroyed that city, broke the greatest military power in Africa that permitted the slave trade to spread inland. That was the last of the great independent states in Africa. It fell at the Battle of Tandoville. Here blacks know about the Battle of Bull Run, all Runnymede, all the English battles. Never heard of Tandoville.
I hear you, brother. I hear you.
Miseducated. All right. I used to have on my examination, but the students caught on to me and it got too easy, so I changed it. I would say that of all the things that happened in 1492, the great events, Christopher Columbus' alleged discovery of the New World was the least significant for African people concerned.
Right.
There are two other events more important to African people, name the events and the consequences of those events for today. Some students answered, some couldn't. First place I wanted to point out, Columbus discovered absolutely nothing. The Portuguese had charted the New World, and they didn't have to discover it because they knew what it was anyway.